Welcome to The Human Code, the podcast where technology meets humanity, and the future is shaped by the leaders and innovators of today. I'm your host, Don Finley, inviting you on a journey through the fascinating world of tech, leadership, and personal growth. Here, we delve into the stories of visionary minds who are not only driving technological advancement, but also embodying the personal journeys and insights that inspire us all. Each episode, we explore the intersections where human ingenuity meets the cutting edge of technology, unpacking the experiences, challenges, and triumphs that define our era. So, whether you're a tech enthusiast, an inspiring entrepreneur, or simply curious about the human narratives behind the digital revolution, you're in the right place. Welcome to The Human Code. In this episode, we're excited to welcome Andreas Freund, co-founder and CTO of Interweave. With over 30 years of experience in technology, including expertise in Web3, cryptography, and ERP systems, Andreas brings a unique perspective to the intersection of humanity and technology, informed by his deep understanding of theoretical physics and his passion for teaching the next generation of Web3 builders. Today, Andreas and I will share his insights into the evolution of human needs and technology, and how we're moving towards a global collaboration for survival enabled by distributed systems like blockchain. A thought-provoking discussion on the ethical and existential risks posed by AI, particularly in military applications and beyond. The transformative role of generative AI in shaping the future, along with the societal challenges that come with it. Join us as we dive into these compelling topics with Andreas Freund. This episode is packed with valuable insights that will challenge the way you think critically about the role of technology in our collective future. You won't want to miss it. Welcome. I am sitting here with a good friend of mine now, Andreas Freund. And I got to say, Andreas, thank you so much for being on the show. It's a real pleasure to have you here. But also, the first question that I got to ask you is, what has you interested in the intersection between humanity and
In
technology?
part, my own personal healing and growth journey that has always been based on relationships and community. So the work that I've done in blockchain technology, things that I build around self-sovereign digital identity, around decentralized brand economies, the things that I've written about have always been with the focus on community and to be able to build sustainable communities at scale, which we as a race have been struggling with.
I could absolutely see that. I think humanity functions really well and in a tribal manner. But as we've expanded out the decentralized nature of our society, we've hit a couple bumps. Where does your passion lie
So
today?
to answer that question, I would like to take a little step back and open the lens a little bit. So
Yeah, please.
humanity evolves through different stages. We were initially subsistence cultures in Africa. So we competed for resources and then later on collaborated for safety as we built small communities, small families that grew larger and larger as our technology evolved. Our need that could be fulfilled changed. And as our needs are changing, we are emotionally growing as a child would. A child screams initially. Why? Because it needs to be fed. The only way it can communicate that is by screaming. It doesn't have the means, the capabilities to articulate anything else. So safety and sustainability of life is paramount for children. But as the brain evolves and it can articulate other needs, these other needs are met through technical means often. You have games that you play when you're small as a child, and then those evolve. The technology evolves. As we start to evolve our needs, our technology evolves with it. So as we as individuals grow, we're using more and more complex technologies. As we as societies grow, we're using more and more different technologies because our needs evolve as the technologies evolve. And we see, oh, now these needs that I actually have that could never be met can now be met. The need for comfort. Once comfort is met, the need for meaning of life, for personal meaning. But this is all I focused. There is a framework for that called spiral dynamics that talks about a spiral that has different memes, and they evolve from pure subsistence all the way up to evolving meaning through community. But all of this is I focused. It's either I compete for or I collaborate for a need. And with social media, you can see that influencers and people on social media, they are out there, they're collaborating with others in order to generate meaning for themselves, not for the community yet. It's all still I. So the next level of the development of our human consciousness as a global tribe, and we have all the different memes existing at the same time. You have subsistence tribes, you have tribes that are warring. So you have all the different emotional development stages that a child goes through as it becomes an adult, also present in the different societies. And the next meme after the meme of I collaborate for meaning with community is we collaborate for survival. So it starts a new spiral at the end, and it's all about survival. But we as a global tribe, and we can only solve our challenges for global survival as a species if we are predominantly in this new meme and we all think about we collaborate for survival. And you can see that we're moving towards that because we're starting to develop technologies that are enabling that are enabling the we collaborate for survival.
Where are you seeing those
they
technologies?
are technologies around distributed systems, blockchain technologies, for example. Blockchain is one of the first technologies that has the we collaborate baked in, terribly inefficient and misused. But that's what technologies often are. Their best use is uncovered later on. Initial best use for the efficient steam engine of James Watt, which up until this point has been the most impactful development in human history ever, was primarily used for economic advancement and war, not for the community as a whole. That came later. Once you build a transportation, mass transportation that could be used by everyone.
And it's also interesting because it's like that we mentality and developing technology for war is definitely not on that level.
That is right. War is about the I versus the we.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, the technology is there, but our mindset isn't there. So we are not utilizing the technology in the most effective way. We're still using it with an I mindset. And meme coins, and if on OpenSea and all that bullshit that is around, that is pump and dump and scams that are get rich quick. So whereas there are a lot of people who are, if you look into the communities that are around different projects, you can quickly discern which ones are genuine and they really want to build something new. And there's a real meaning of we. If you look at, for example, IPFS, right, which is a really selfless thing. The Ethereum community at large, evolving the Ethereum blockchain, the truly democratic, slow process, but very, very effective. And as we starting to scale these things and experiment and learn to be comfortable with technologies enabling this we behavior, this information flow, this consensus building, the alignment of intention and values. That is hard. And we're still not there. We're not emotionally evolved enough to have caught up with the technology. That's also a significant problem when we're talking, for example, about generative AI.
I can completely see that because we're creating for the self, we're creating for our small tribe. And yet at the same time, that ability to create is vastly different from what it was 5 years ago. But how do you see it as impacting society?
So our predominant meme, that's basically what you would call capitalism. And capitalism is all about resource control. So you can extract rent from the resources. OpenAI, Google, Meta, you name them. Microsoft. It's all about resource control, funneling the resources, human eyeballs, into the generative AI funnel, and they're openly talking about replacing search through AI, would disintermediate a lot of companies. I, for example, use generative AI tools daily in my practice. I wouldn't be able to properly work and at the speed that I do, serving different clients in my startup, in my own personal business without that. And generative AI tools take me from a mediocre developer at best to at least a good one, if not a really good one. And that is now. So if you look at what Boston Dynamics is doing with humanoid robots, the ability for them to peel an egg.
Wait, has Boston Dynamics been able to peel an egg?
I think it's Boston
Oh, I missed
Dynamics.
that.
May have been sometimes fuzzy on the source because I see so much, does not always gets properly stored.
Okay, we're in similar bling on a daily basis that there is an issue of keeping it all straight. But just to let everybody else know that the real significance of that is human dexterity of hands has been a real difficult challenge for robots. And one of the reasons why Amazon warehouses still have people packing the boxes is because there's nothing like a human hand for picking something up
Right.
and moving it.
That's right. Even though they have now a 100% automated smartphone manufacturing facility, I think it's Japan, that is fully AI driven and that
Nice.
learns from process breakdowns and self-correct. That's now.
I mean, that is really awesome. Like, as far as we'll come back to the capitalism meme in that question, but there is this opportunity that we have to basically take jobs away that people may not want to be doing and still allow for our consumption to continue or like us to thrive in different ways. But what does a community look like? What does a society look like in this age of we?
If we ever get to the age of we, and we're not going extinct before, which I would put at about 60% to 80% probability that we will wipe ourselves
Okay.
out, or we are going to be wiped out by generative AI in combination with climate change.
So climate change and generative AI being the kind of like the
Yes,
downfall.
there's a very simple Gedanken experiment that you can do. It is already used in today's battlefields at an alarming rate. The Gedanken experiment is what happens when you have basically two AIs battling each other by redirecting and directing human forces, technology, drone swarms. And what if they're battling each other and the goal is to win? And then safeguards are slowing one AI down compared to another. What is going to happen? Will you remove the safeguards? There's the famous scene in the movie Hunt for Red October, one of my favorite movies of all time, where there's a Russian hunter submarine going after Sean Connery's submarine from also Russian submarine that has escaped, and they missed the first time that they shoot at it. And then the next time they missed because the safeties were on and the torpedoes were not activated as soon as they were fired. So the commander removed the safeties, fired, and it ended up killing themselves because the safeties were turned off.
Ah, okay.
If you think about it, the one AI losing against the other, and then humans seeing that and knowing that they're going to lose, what are they going to do? Will they also remove the safeties? What happens when there are no more safeties in AI models whose primary purpose is to win a war, win a battle? They don't care. There's no concept of humanity, of ethics, of morals, unless they've been trained to do that, which, quite frankly, is not going to happen in AI models that are supporting the military, because you will always lose. The ethical and moral AI will always lose against the one that is not going to have ethics and morals because it is hamstrung. So then when one AI wins of the AIs without safety, what's going to happen then?
It kind of feels like you're walking down the
I
Terminator
mean,
timeline.
that's a little extreme, but there are so many other things that can happen
Okay.
and would happen before generative AI taking over critical infrastructure, because it's protecting critical infrastructure. Now it's being taken over by the winning side, so to speak. What then? So there are many, many things that are really, really scary that can happen before we even get to Skynet, way, way before then.
And I think that's a good point to make, is that like Skynet is a great kind of visual representation of the drama that could be happening. But
Right.
there are easier ways to take down a
And we're
society.
doing it to ourselves already, though, because we can't even manage social
Oh yeah, we're
media
really
in a humane way.
no. But is the challenge of social media, do you see AI helping in that? Do you think AI could actually
It
help to bring
could.
us towards each other instead of antagonizing each other? Because the challenge I'm seeing is we're building AI, or at least we've built in recommendation engines, newsfeed. Those are all
Right.
based on maximizing attention, maximizing engagement, which is to the benefit of, let's just use Facebook Meta. They gain value from us being in this heightened emotional state
That's
that keeps
correct.
us on the
Do you
application.
know why they're doing that, or
My
why we are doing that?
well, my take is that it brings us back to capitalism. It brings us back to the end purpose of the business, and going back to Friedman, that we are a
So
shareholder
you,
capitalist society right now. And the end benefit of the Facebook platform is really for the shareholders and the customers, which
that's
we're not
right.
the customer. We are the product
Even one step
in this
further,
capacity.
you ask, so why AI cannot be used to bring us closer together?
Yeah.
The basic answer is that businesses will always choose the easiest path to monetization, because that is what that maximizes shareholder value. If you maximize revenue, if you can increase cash flow, if you can accelerate increase in cash flow by using certain techniques, you will do that. So what is the most powerful attention grabber is our genetic programming that has been there for evolutionary purposes. It is the fear of other. Fear is the twin of anger. Fear begets anger. And therefore, tribalism
Yes.
exists to protect the small community against the other, because the other was killing the tribe, because it was so dangerous. Animals, other warring tribes. So it's always other. So we're programmed at our DNA to always fear other. And this base fear is very easily triggered.
Yeah.
And if it's easily triggered, right, that means attention to. Attention to something means eyeballs. Eyeballs mean money through ads. That's why the easiest path to monetization was by increasing tribalism, increasing fear that goes to anger. It's very, 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 very simple. And that's why you will not see AI being used for bringing the communities together. It's being used to create even more fear, therefore even more anger, therefore even more attention to the content that is stoking that fear, and therefore is more easily monetizable.
What's a path forward that doesn't drive us into the ground? How can we look at our usage of AI in a way that is that collaborative, like
So,
from that we?
so the big challenge is that our innovative energy and capability far outpaces our emotion and also our intellectual grasp of things. We're not trained. Society is not trained to understand technology, only to use it. But to really know what to do with technology, you need to understand it. If you don't understand it, you can't even contemplate the dual uses. And the experts have been pushed to the side because they have been cast again in that framework of us versus them, of other. So it's extremely challenging to pass things unless there is a massive catastrophe. Things really didn't change at a global scale until after World War II, until 70 million plus people died. There was a Holocaust where we
Yeah.
looked at each other and said, this is so horrific. We as a species must be different and must do differently. And only then did we just barely get together. And that thing didn't really hold. As we can see now, this whole fabric is disintegrating because generational knowledge and generate emotional knowledge is disappearing. And we're going back to exactly the same thing that we had before, except that now we have much better technology to annihilate one another. And it's a cycle.
Who is it that said that World War III will be fought with nukes and World
I'm
War
not even
IV will
sure
be
that
fought
World
with
War
sticks
III
and
is going to be
stones?
fought with nukes. It could just be fought with AI. That's sufficient. So the only hope that I currently have is that our infrastructure, the electric grid, and our capacity to produce AI chips is just going to hit an impasse. It's like we can't produce enough infrastructure for AI to evolve as fast as it has been. So we're still hitting like Moore's law is still well and intact for generative AI capabilities and chips, but
Yeah.
the energy that's required is ginormous just for the training primarily. Once the model runs, that's fine. It's just enormous. And the capabilities that are required and the number of chips that people want is just insane. So building these capabilities will take time. And maybe this slowing down of the trend because we don't have enough resources to move ahead fast enough is going to save us, because we're going to recognize all the things that are going sideways, and we're starting to see that. And that's my hope, that we don't have enough resources to grow the capability fast enough so that we'll never be able to catch up with it to make sensible decisions about it.
I think that the opportunity is there. We're definitely in a hype cycle in some capacity, and investment definitely flows heavily in during that hype cycle. And we've seen it a couple times in the last 10 years for blockchain as well. But then we also see the winters coming, or the trough of disillusionment happen. And maybe that could also be a gating factor for how fast we're running
If
into
Sam
this,
Altman is
generative
able
AI movement.
to raise the $7 trillion that he wants to, then too many people
Yeah.
have too much to lose to allow for a winter.
That's an interesting one, because you're also looking at its use case adoption. And I'm still seeing enterprises
Oh, yeah.
focused on proof of concepts. We're seeing rushed implementations that yield results that are very positive up front, but then also, like, I've seen car dealerships that have been liable for what ChatGPT says, even after the person like purposely jailbreaks it, kind of component. Or there was, I think it was New York City, where their chatbot was actually telling the citizens to not work laws.
And that is, again, this stuff is still controllable. We're at the, if you look at,
Yeah.
and that's my favorite sort of like metaphor and comparison, because this is still exponential development. So at the beginning, if I make 30 exponential steps, I travel around the world 27 times. So that's the lake with the lily pads. It's like nothing happens for a long time. Once you realize that something is wrong, the whole lake is covered within a matter of 3-4 days. So we as human beings, evolution has made us purposefully not to be able to recognize exponential behavior. Evolution made us such because we optimized survival. And optimizing survival means reducing relative error. And relative error, the information that we're gaining from optimizing relative error, is stored logarithmically. So the logarithm of an exponential function is a straight line. So even if it's exponential, the most we perceive as a straight line. Because
it's a really interesting way to view
Savannah,
that.
the individuals who optimized relative error were like, oh, shit, there are lions coming. Let's get the heck out of here. Versus the ones that were optimizing absolute error, there's like, oh, there are lines coming. How many are there? Wait, 1, 2. Wait, how many? Wait, let's wait a little bit longer. They didn't make it.
Yep. That's absolutely fascinating. So what I want to ask you then is, how would you recommend anybody who is either in the AI field or impacted by AI in some way, or wanting to be participating in this, what are some either skill sets or opportunities that they have in this world today?
Short term, there are 2 things that I would recommend. Number 1 is figure out how to use generative AI tools in the job you have right now, and figure out how to use them really, really well, so that you are ahead of the curve for a little while. That won't last. This is a mere stopgap, because the tooling will come out. It just makes it less likely that you're the first ones that get the boot. So in addition to that, you need to figure out what other skill sets do you need to acquire while you're employed so that you can pivot? Do you want to learn to become a carpenter? Do you want to a plumber? Do you want to learn how to, it's like, or software development is probably not a really good use unless you're in the AI space. But really carefully look at
Yeah.
other disciplines and figure out how you can utilize AI tooling there and retool yourself, because you will have to retool yourself pretty much every 2-3 years from now on until most jobs are gone.
I think you're hitting on a strong point, and that's the ability to learn is incredibly important. The other side of this is that we need to widen the scope of what we would think we would want to be doing from a career path, and opening our eyes to the fact that white collar jobs will likely not be around for too much longer. Andreas, I got to say, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on the show. And I really appreciate you taking the time and making this a great episode. I think we all do. I think we also need to keep our eyes open and aware of what the opportunity is versus what the challenges could be. So again, thank you so much. Thank you for tuning into The Human Code, sponsored by Findustries, where we harness AI to elevate your business. By improving operational efficiency and accelerating growth, we turn opportunities into reality. Let Findustries be your guide to AI mastery, making success inevitable. Explore how at findustries.co.